Alrighty, today we will be talking about electronic resources, specifically the electronic resources at the Brentwood Public Library. Now, the Brentwood Public Library has many sections, all of them incredibly nice. When I went into the building, they had a stellar children's section. They had a beautiful men's section. And, I was a little even partial to the outside. But to the meat of the issue that we'll be discussing today, we need to go to the website. Now, their main webpage is going to have a multitude of things that you can scroll through, a bunch of links of current events, and along the one far side, they're going to have links to all of their electronic resources. Now, you can go to the top bar and click over to databases and see a listing of each of one of the resources and a short description of each of the resources. In addition, you'll see that they still have the same widget bar on the far side. There are a lot of crossover between the two. In fact, I think just about every electronic resource that is listed and described is also in the widget bar. On to questions from the interview that I had with Katie Creasy, the Reference Service Manager at Brentwood Public Library. Wonderful woman, extremely helpful. How are ERs suggested? She said this is normally something that a patron would bring up, or perhaps one of the vendors that she speaks with, especially the ones that she has a close relationship throughout the years. Who can request these items? She said just about everyone listed. It could be the patrons, it could be the staff. Who evaluates these items? She seems to be a one-man team. She says that she does most of the evaluations herself, but she also sends out some for during the trial periods and has the staff go through them and see if they'd be useful with answering questions for the patrons. Who makes a decision to buy? She says Katie herself. What is the place of the ER in the budget? She says that it has its own line. What percentage of the materials budget goes to the ER? And they said it's a pretty healthy percentage. They wanted to go ahead and do the actual math, and they said that it is exactly 40% of the budget. The electronic resources have taken over hard copies, and they said that this is by and large more helpful for the patrons. Who negotiates for price? Apparently Katie is a one-man band. Who negotiates the license? But she said there's not really that much negotiating that goes along. She says you normally just agree with what they're allowing you to use. Who is qualified to sign the license? Anyone with the title of library or higher. Once the decision is made, who would order it? She says herself. Who would pay the invoice? An invoice is over $4,000. It has to be approved by and through the city. Who receives all of the access information from the vendor? That would be Katie again. She also filters it into the website. She says normally it's not that difficult. It's normally a link that they send to you when you buy the materials, and it was something that wouldn't be too terribly difficult. It would be like copy and pasting out of an email, and if there's any further stuff like setting up a widget for the main page, they normally have instructions for this as well. How does one communicate with the other staff members? They said that normally it's very informal. They hang out. She's implementing a lunch and learn system where they're going to be going over the different programs during their lunch break through. They also have training videos that she sends out in mass emails, and we are going to watch one of those now.
To access Reference USA, go to your search engine and type in the name of your library. I will be using my library, Omaha Public Library. Find your library link and enter their page. Once there, find their databases section. This is different for every library. It's sometimes found under Business and Investing, Resources, Resource Center, Databases, or e-resources. For Omaha Public Library, you select Business and Investing, choose Reference USA, then select Search. The Reference USA link on your library page brings you to the login page where you enter your library card number. You have now successfully logged into Reference USA.
And normally help with any of the major broad stroke questions. That way, if you need any specific questions about detailed items, you can come to her, and she might have to contact the vendor, but she says she normally has the answer. How are staff trained in the new resource? They normally go through the video training process. How are the ERs promoted? Promotion of ERs seems to be covered in flyers and perhaps promotional emails. There's also a news e-letter that she's given specific space to promote every month a specific one. She normally picks specific ones that line up with what time of year it is when it's approaching finals, perhaps something that's more school-based and so on. She also has shelf talkers that are placed around the library. Does the library have an ERMS? No. They just use Katie in a spreadsheet. She normally looks over a lot of the data points at least once a month, and then she'll go through and analyze whether or not they're using the resource enough for how much it costs. Advantages of this system is she's on top of it. She knows how the system works. She knows what the library needs. She can analyze the numbers. She's very familiar with it personally. Disadvantages is, and she said jokingly, were she to get hit by a car, she's really the only one who's been trained in this particularly. She says any of the other librarians would be more than capable, but she's much more familiar with the material. Alright, the library's process for collecting and analyzing usage statistics and how are they used in management decisions. Apparently, Katie uses this handy-dandy spreadsheet, has formulas set, and goes through all the statistics of how often people key into things, and each database has a different word for searching and queuing and how often it's viewed, but she kind of collects them by their similar traits and then analyzes where they were in the last year and where they need to be for it to be efficient for them to keep spending the amount of money they do on that particular resource. And she says big decisions about whether or not they can keep the resource or whether or not they want to add another one of a similar type are made by using this formula system. She also says that another big key in choosing which kind of electronic resource they use is not to pick everything from one vendor, even though she said, for example, that Gale is incredibly helpful and it's hard not to choose from just them. But picking from multiple vendors creates a more varied experience for the patron.